Hello everyone, welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. 𝐵𝐷𝐾𝐒 is my name. Welcome back from all that wonderful weekend action. It's been a weekend filled with brilliant action, with some bit of controversy on some refereeing decisions, in particular that red card for Declan Rice against in their game against Brighton and Hove Albion in the early kickoff of matchday 3. But we concluded matchday 3 as Liverpool punished Manchester United mistakes to condemn them to a 3-0 defeat at Old Trafford, a result that does raise some question marks over Manchester United's midfield, but more importantly over the manager, who I already think is under pressure in Erik ten Hag. Anyway, so let's kick things off where they ended last, and that is at Old Trafford, where Liverpool beat Manchester United by 3-0. Luis Diaz with a brace on the day, while an unbelievable Mohamed Salah, an unstoppable Mo Salah, delivered the third goal to give Liverpool the 3-0 victory. He did provide the other two assists, leading to Luis Diaz's goal. We also had the goal cancelled out for offside. That was Alexander Trent-Arnold, who had gotten himself on the score sheet. But Mo Salah was ruled to be offside somewhere in the build-up of that, leading to that goal. It's a day that, of course, was, captioned or summarized in an easy way that Casemiro cost his team, but I do find that he is an easy target to blame on this particular day, because let's tell it as it was. Yes, he did make mistakes. He did lose the ball in dangerous positions that cost his side, goals. But then, what were Manchester United doing for the rest of the time? Even though they did create some chances, I don't think they gave themselves enough armor to try and hurt Liverpool. When Casemiro loses the ball in the first instance, again, when you look at where Luis Diaz is literally at the back end to head in that ball, I think next to him was Dominic Szoboszlai. Where are the Manchester United defenders marking these two guys? They were nowhere to be seen. And of course, he heads the ball home in literally an empty net. And then the second goal, he is standing in between two defenders and nobody is man-to-man with him. Easily slots that ball beyond Andre Onana in goal and makes it 2-0. So clearly, Casemiro, could he have done better? For a player of his experience, for a player of his caliber, yes, he could have done much better. But in the second instance, you also have to remember that in his defense, he was perhaps claiming a foul on him, which wasn't given. One would argue it was a 50-50, but it's a man's game. You do expect these kinds of moments. It was a little too light, in my opinion, to pass for a foul. No wonder the referee didn't give it. But in his case, or another Manchester United fans' case, or another person making the judgment, could easily say it was a foul that was not given against Casemiro. So he loses possession and his team goes on to concede. Now, then manager Erik ten Hag goes on to make the substitution at halftime to withdraw Casemiro. Now, I thought that was a decision a little bit too questionable, especially for my tests. Regardless of the mistakes, I did think that Casemiro had more to offer in this game, given the pace at which Liverpool were driving that game. And we did see that in the second half, Mo Salah extending their lead. And when he made it 3-0, in quick succession, he almost made it 4-0, only that his attempt went way over the bar. So the result in itself puts a lot of questions on Manchester United's midfield prowess, but also, more importantly, raises concerns or raises more questions over manager Erik ten Hag, who I think is arguably the manager under the most pressure in this Premier League season, given how things transpired last season, what we did experience in pre-season there when they were reviewing the season and making the decision to retain him, and all that kind of environment. You do feel that he is under pressure to deliver results, and should they not go his way, they may not hesitate to cut their losses and terminate him. But we won't rush our thoughts before the decisions do come in. We'll wait to see how things span out. Overall, the game did see Manchester United create their own chances, but they were not clinical on the day to bury those chances, to make those chances count. Joshua Zirkzee, their summer signing from Bologna, in what was believed to be a €40 million buy or plus, being the culprit on two occasions, forcing Alisson Becker in two brilliant saves, while the other attempt was wide off the mark. So those are the key moments that you sort of point on in the sake of Manchester United. There was also another attempt, especially in the second half. I think it was by Lisandro Martinez when he received that mid-range cross from Amad Diallo. It was well floated in, and he tried the bicycle kick that ended up wide of the mark as well. So on a given day, on another day, had Manchester United been more clinical, perhaps we would be discussing a different result, but they weren't. And then this offensively, they could have done much better, especially in the way they controlled that midfield, because they just lost that midfield battle, and that ended up exposing their defense, oftentimes which opted to play a higher line, and then the fullbacks were trying to push a little further. That left the two centre backs exposed, because then their number 6 wasn't pulling backwards to try and help them. So every time Liverpool won the ball quickly in the midfield, in that pressing shape of 3 or 4 players, usually you had Diogo Jota, you had Mo Salah in that chase, and then Luis Diaz, and then Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister quickly following those front 3 to make it 4. They quickly exposed Manchester United, catching them flat-footed. Sometimes it was a 4 versus 2 in terms of Manchester United defending against Liverpool, when Liverpool won that ball quickly in midfield. So clearly, there's a lot of homework for Manchester United to do. The beauty for them is that we are headed for the international break, which does give them a fortune to correct some of their mistakes. Nonetheless, it goes without saying that, of course, some players will be absent, as they will have been summoned by their national teams. But that was the result. Liverpool maintaining their perfect start to the 2024-2025 Premier League season. I got a sickening feeling that I may have underestimated this Liverpool side. Squad-wise, I think they are flawless. They are good enough to compete for the Premier League title. And Arne Slot is not showing any signs that he is even a new manager in the Premier League. But we'll wait and see. The Premier League is always a marathon and not a sprint. So we'll give ourselves time to see how everything does span out. Away from Old Trafford and away from the misery of the Red Devils, we do take a short trip to London, where at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea were held to a 1-1 draw there by Crystal Palace in what was a London derby. Nicholas Jackson on target for the Blues, while Embelechi Eze was there to answer for Crystal Palace to restore parity. Of course, it was Cole Palmer that did provide the assist in this particular one. A game that saw Chelsea miss quite a good number of chances. They did look dominant for the better part of the game, but then the result is, I'm sure, not what Enzo Maresca would have wanted, especially coming into this particular fixture on the back of a 6-2 victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Premier League, but their 2-1 loss against Servette in the Europa Conference League, as they qualified there for the group stages in a 3-2 overall aggregate score. So more homework to do for Chelsea, and again the advantage does present itself for Enzo Maresca, that they can use this fortunate to try and drill his team into more the way he wants them to play. Of course, Enzo Fernandez didn't have a good day in office in terms of the player that Chelsea fans or even his bosses do expect him to be. And then the other very tight fixture of the weekend was between Newcastle at St James's Park, as they hosted Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspurs, who they managed to beat by 2-1. Harvey Barnes on target there for the Magpies, and Alexander Isak scoring the decisive goal that made the scoreline 2-1 after Dan Burn had scored in the back of his own net to restore parity or to level the game, to bring the game back to level. So 2-1 it finished at St James's Park. I'm sure Eddie Howe will be pretty impressed with the results as well as the players. Tottenham's performance, they could have done perhaps a little better. than they delivered on the day, but they have always struggled at St. James's Park, including, I think, in their last 4 games being beaten 4-0, and the other was another big score there. So Newcastle tend to give them a lot of trouble when they host them at St. James's Park. Anyway, allow us leave Super Sunday at that, because those were the 3 games from Super Sunday, and then take a look at how things did span out in the Premier League's matchday 3 on Saturday. In the early kickoff, Arsenal were held to a 1-1 draw there by Brighton and Hove Albion. Arsenal finishing the game down to 10 men after Declan Rice was shown a second booking early into the second half and given marching orders to leave the pitch. Of course, Bukayo Saka providing the assist there for Kai Havertz to loop the ball past the Brighton and Hove goalkeeper to give Arsenal the lead. But of course, that lead was cancelled in the second half by João Pedro's strike. I think just about 5 minutes after Declan Rice had been sent off, when Mikel Arteta was just preparing to make, I think, his first substitution to try and bring on Ricardo Calafiori in there. But anyways, Arsenal had been pretty dominant for the better part of the game, for the whole of the first half, but that red card did change things. Of course, the first yellow card that he did receive, he came in late on the tackle, so it was a well-deserved. Then the second one is accused of, kicking away the ball to delay a restart, which earns him a second booking. Now, by the letter of the law, by the particulars of the law, it's a bookable offense that Chris Kavanagh was right to dish out a yellow card. But then, the thing about refereeing or these gaming rules and regulations that are handed to referees to try and implement while officiating games, one of the things they prioritize most is common sense. Common sense. Apply your head, apply your common sense to situations, to games, while you interpret some of these rules. That's why we have instances of handball being oftentimes questionable and inconsistent many a times. It is about the interpretation by referees, because we have a handball, we have a ball to hand. So when we judge that, then there's intent, and then there's a lack of intent, but then the ball has hit your arm. For example, like we did see yesterday against Lewis Dunk, he deflected a ball into a corner. That was a strike, I think, by Ben White, for which Arsenal players, being led by Ben White, tried to appeal for, a penalty, which wasn't given. And his arm wasn't so far away from his body at the time the ball strikes his arm. But when you look at the replay again, it's one of those decisions that could have gone either way. It was a 50-50. If the referee had given it, I don't think VAR could have done anything to, overturn it. And since he didn't give it, they again didn't interfere to, have it reviewed. But anyway, that was it. So, and then in the first half, you had João Pedro. The ball went out and he follows it up and smacks it wide far away, when Bukayo Saka, I think, was rushing to try and, pick the ball and take the throw in and have a quick restart. So Chris Kavanagh does not dish a yellow card in that particular instance. So again, now in the case of Declan Rice, there's a foul committed. It's been called. Then as he turns his back to walk back, the Brighton player, don't remember particularly who, in placing the ball, hits it against Declan Rice, and he then kicks it outside, sort of flicks it on the outside. And then in the process of the Brighton player trying to kick that ball, he smashes into Declan Rice. Now, Arsenal fans in the stadium were furious, of course, calling on the referee to, penalize the Brighton player for what they figured was some bit of retaliation. And then to their dismay, or to perhaps everybody's dismay, is that he goes on to hand Declan Rice a second booking and then a red card. It's a controversial decision by the letter of the law. Like I said, it does stand. The law is on Kavanagh's side. Everything common sense brought in, he got it most definitely wrong, as many English referees do. Did I expect any better? Personally, not really. English referees tend to be that way. And it's a decision that many have called ridiculous, absolutely wrong. Piers Morgan, but that one is an Arsenal fan, so you could understand. But then John Terry does come out to say it's a ridiculous decision, and so many other pundits and people that do follow the game. So, anyways, it finished 1-1 at the Emirates Stadium as Brighton put an end to Arsenal's perfect start, just as much as Arsenal were doing to that of Brighton, as they shared the spoils in a 1-1 draw that saw them share the points, which does reflect where they do both stand on the Premier League table, as we're going to see in a bit. Anyways, in the other results, we won't be able to go there in depth, but here are some of the other results from the weekend on matchday 3. Brentford were 3-1 winners against Southampton at the GTEC Stadium, while Everton were stunned by Bournemouth, being beaten by 3-2 now. Everton had a 2-0 lead in this particular fixture, I think up to the 87th minute, and then Bournemouth scored in quick succession and found also the winner, leaving Everton players to be booed by their own fans and of course the manager in Sean Dyche. Very, very bad day in office, one they will want to quickly forget. Unfortunately, the international break tends to appear oftentimes longer than it actually is. 2 weeks of no Premier League football or club football tends to, put clubs into a lot of scrutiny, and I'm sure for the next 2 weeks, Everton fans will be discussing the events of Saturday there, and I'm sure they're not pretty happy. Then Ipswich Town did share the spoils and with Fulham in a 1-1 draw, while Aston Villa beat Leicester City by 2-1. I think Benanote there scoring the consolation for Leicester City, while Amadou Onana and John Duran were on target for Aston Villa. Amadou Onana having a brilliant start to his career at Aston Villa. Then the other result did see Nottingham Forest also share the spoils with Wolverhampton Wanderers in a 1-1 draw. And then to close off Saturday, we did see a man probably out of this world, not from this planet, Braut Erling Haaland, as he scored a hat-trick against West Ham. 3-1 Manchester City winning against West Ham. It was Ruben Dias that deflected Gerard Bowen's cross on the other end to make it 1-1 at the time, for what turned out to be a mere consolation for the Hammers there at the London Stadium. Braut Erling Haaland, very unstoppable. For those of you that do remember, when we were making our predictions for this particular season, we did highlight that Braut Erling Haaland will probably walk away with his 3rd straight Premier League Golden Boot, and just 3 games in, and he already has 6 goals to his name. 2 hat-tricks, one against Ipswich Town and another against West Ham. Who is chasing him? Of course, Mo Salah. Like again, we spoke in that episode. Mo Salah, 3 goals and 3 assists. These players are just unbelievable. Mo Salah aging like fine wine. But there are no superlatives that I could use to describe Braut Erling Haaland, and an on-form Braut Erling Haaland. It will be hard to stop him this season, and Manchester City may win so much that we may get tired of seeing them win. But it is what it is. So we head into the international break with those results, with matchday 3 complete, and here is what that means, or reflect what those results mean for the Premier League table or for the Premier League standings. Of course, Manchester City and Liverpool are the only teams that remain perfect with 3 wins out of 3 games. So those are 9 points, leaving Man City and Liverpool there at the top. In 3rd place is Brighton and Hove Albion with 7 points after 3 games, just as many as Arsenal in 4th place. Newcastle United, 7 points, come in 5th place, while Brentford, Aston Villa follow in 6th and 7th place respectively with 6 points apiece. Bournemouth 5 points there in 8th place, while Nottingham Forest also have 5 points in 9th place. Then with their 4 points, Tottenham Hotspurs are 10th, followed by Chelsea in 11th place with 4 points, and then Fulham come with 4 points in 12th place, while West Ham United with 3 points at 13th, just as many as Manchester United, who are right below them in 14th place. Leicester City only have a point to their name, just like Crystal Palace and Ipswich Town. And in the bottom 3 is Wolverhampton Wanderers with just a point, while Southampton and Everton are still in the quest for their first point of this Premier League season. Do let me know what your thoughts are on those particular results and those submissions, what you agree with, what you disagree with, or why you have a different opinion on those different performances from your favorite teams. And I'll see you next time. Stay blessed and have a wonderful rest of the week and a happy new month.